The topic is virtualization, virtual machine, hypervisor. What is virtualization? Virtualization is a technology that uses software, specifically a hypervisor, to create virtual simulated version of physical infrastructure such as servers, storage, and network on a single hardware system. By enabling multiple operating systems and applications to run simultaneously on one machine, it increases resource utilization, reduces hardware costs, boosts energy and efficiency, acts as the foundation for cloud computing. So simply, virtualization is the process, it's the technology that lets us trick our physical hardware, that is CPU, RAM, and the hard drive, into thinking it can be split up into multiple independent parts. Instead of having one big PC that only runs Windows, virtualization allows the same PC to run Windows, Linux, Mac OS all at the same time. So physical hardware has a lot of capacity resources that goes idle. To utilize those idle resources to its fullest, there is a concept of virtualization. Virtualization allows that idle resources or the resources in your hardware to utilize it to its fullest. We can create of virtual machines, so that virtual machines are another form of your computer or your interface that you can run or utilize that on another computer or another device. Virtual machines. A virtual machine VM is a software-based emulation of a physical computer that runs an operating system and applications completely isolated from the host machine. Using a hypervisor to allocate physical resources like CPU and RAM, virtual machines allows multiple operating systems, example Windows, Linux, Mac OS, etc., to coexist on a single computer. They are widely used for software testing, server consolidation, and secure computing. Simply, virtual machine is the result of virtualization. It is a software-defined computer that runs inside our physical one. It has its own operating system. It thinks it has its own dedicated hardware, but it doesn't have. It is inside a big hardware that is your physical hardware, and it just utilizes that resources from it. It is actually just a big file sitting on a real hard drive. If a virtual machine catches a virus or crashes, it doesn't hurt our physical computer. We can just delete the virtual machine and start over, which is why they are great for testing sketchy software or new updates. So that was about virtual machines. Now what is hypervisor? Hypervisor or virtual machine monitor VMM is a software, firmware or hardware that enables a single physical host machine to run multiple isolated virtual machines simultaneously. By abstracting and allocating physical resources, CPU, memory, and storage, it maximizes hardware utilization, reduces cost, and supports both enterprise data centers, that is type 1, and local desktop environments, that is type 2. Simply, hypervisor is a software that makes it all possible. It makes virtualization possible. It gives rights to virtual machines. If the physical hardware is a house, the hypervisor is the property manager. So what does the hypervisor do? It carves up the physical resource, giving, for example, 2 GB RAM to the virtual machine 1 and 4 GB RAM to the virtual machine 2. It makes sure that the virtual machines don't talk to each other unless they are supposed to. So they are independent to each other. Each virtual machine is not exactly dependent on each other for resources or anything. It depends on the physical server or physical hardware. It ensures that if one virtual machine crashes, the other keeps running smoothly. In other words, physical hardware in itself cannot perform tasks or it cannot allocate, separate itself to create virtual machines. So we need something that communicates or creates virtual machines. So our hardware in itself cannot do a task unless we break it down physically. So it would not be of any use. To utilize physical hardware to its fullest, hypervisor is a software that communicates with the physical hardware or the physical server to let it create virtual machines and give rise to the concept of virtualization. Now let's summarize this. The concept physical computing, it has one family operating system, one whole plot of land, that is hardware. For virtualization, an apartment building, one plot of land is divided into many private units. The virtual machine, it is like the entire house. For virtualization, it is an individual apartment. It has its own door and kitchen but shares the building foundation. The foundation is hardware or the physical server. The hypervisor is the owner just lives there, the property manager. It decides who gets which room and makes sure everyone stays in their own space. Why does virtualization, virtual machines, or hypervisor matter to us? For efficiency, most servers only use about 10% of their power. Virtualization lets us use 90% by packing multiple virtual machines onto one server. For safety, we can run old, vulnerable software in a virtual machine without risking your main system or your main hardware that can get ruined by sketchy software on virtual machines and delete it if it doesn't work. Snapshots. We can save the state of a virtual machine. If we mess something up, we can hit undo or delete it and go back to exactly how it was 5 minutes ago. Virtual machines performance or its safety doesn't affect your physical hardware. Or that is it for the video today. I hope the topic was simple and insightful. Make sure to like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.